Hi, and welcome to Be More Super, the podcast. I'm Brian, your host. And do you know what? Every time I record an intro, I always think, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? But do you know what? This week, I'm not overthinking it. If this is the very first time that you're listening to the podcast, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for listening. Please, if you enjoy this episode, please like, share and subscribe with all your friends, and also give us a review on whatever format you're listening on. So this week we've got a great, stuntman, actor, director, producer. His name is Brian A. Prince. And no, he isn't a real prince, it's Brian A. Prince. And he played the Predator in the Predator movie, the most recent one. And also he's done work on the Black Panther and some other Marvel studio projects. So please sit back, relax and enjoy this episode. And as always, this episode is brought to you by the wonderful people at Prop Store of London. So please visit their website, propstore.com, and check out all the screen use props and costumes they have on offer. So sit back, relax, and enjoy our interview with Brian A. Prince.
Welcome to Be More Super, the podcast.
Up in the sky, it's a bird.
It's a plane!
It's Superman.
An action-packed podcast where we'll discuss all things entertainment.
You're the answer to Are We Alone in the Universe?
Conventions, prop collecting, cosplay, interviews, reviews, and so much more. The show starts with host Brian Gardner right now.
This week, we've got a great episode for you. We've got the wonderful actor, artist, and athlete, as it states on his website, Brian A. Prince. Brian, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Hey man, thanks for having me.
First of all, can I just say, Brian A. Prince, what does the A stand for? Or are you an actual prince?
That's awesome. So the A is for my middle name.
Okay.
Which is Alexander.
Excellent.
And Prince is my last name. And so sometimes I go by B.A. Prince.
Yeah,
so.
I did wonder, because Brian A. Prince, there we go. You have it there. And obviously you spell your name with an I, and I spell my name, Brian, with a Y. So we've got two Brians on the show. So it's great having you on. We're going to have a quick chat about your career, where you've come from, and where you are now.
Okay.
It's exciting. I've seen advertised that you're going to be featuring on Virtual Con on Sunday. So obviously,
Yes.
when people hear this, it already would have happened. So what have you got planned for Virtual Con? Because obviously, with the lockdown, we can't be attending any conventions. So you kindly agreed to give a bit of your time. So what are you planning for the Virtual Con?
So I have on my website, I have a link for signed prints that I'm going to mail out, and then I also have like a shop item for like people can buy like a little shout out from me. Like I'll send I'll do a video recording on my phone and
A
do
bit
a
like
shout
Cameo
out.
or yeah,
like a cameo thing, and so that's kind of what I have pre-planned. But other than that, I mean, I'm actually not even sure what to expect. I was invited to it very recently, and it sounded really cool, and I'm like, yeah, let's do it. It's great. I'm just at home working, and so I'm planning on being online and seeing what happens. But honestly, I'm not even sure what to expect. So
I'm
I
actually
like just jumping into things and seeing what happens. So.
Yeah, to be honest, it should be fantastic. I mean, there's a lot of guests lined up, and it's been very well organised by a lady called Kerry. I'm actually giving away a prize on the day. So I'm giving away a Supergirl production new storyboard on the day as well. So it should be a fantastic time, especially with lockdown happening. How are you coping at the moment with lockdown? I mean, where are you based currently? Are you in LA or?
So right now I'm based in Seattle, Washington.
Okay.
And so we kind of got hit first in the U.S. There's a little city called Kirkland. It's across the lake, and that's where like the first confirmed cases were here. And then so we kind of started doing a lot of the lockdown kind of like paranoia before it got the rest of the country. So at this point, I'm kind of used to it. But luckily for me, I'm lucky in multiple respects. Like one, so same thing. All the businesses and schools and such are closed for us, but the essentials are open. Some places are open for takeout. My area is really walkable, but it's not very like dense at the same time. So like I can go on walks and like go get a coffee and just like cross the street on people when they're coming or going.
Yeah.
And then also I'm used to working from home. I've been mostly working from home for the last like 5-6 years.
Okay.
And so this has been like nothing necessarily too different, but at the same time, it's actually been, I've been able to turn a bad situation into something great for myself. I've been able to really nail down my morning routine, my daily workflow, everything. And I've gotten a lot more used to the solitude than I've ever been. And yeah, like with some help of some good books and articles and stuff, but it's been good, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got to say, with everything going on, it's definitely, I'm seeing it as a massive reset button on the world, on the way we see things, the way we treat people, the loved ones that we may not see as often. After all of this, we're all going to get back together and have a big party. But it's definitely about social distancing. I mean, in the UK, they're talking about lifting it, and I know that in the States they are.
My home state is, I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, and they're like, we're opening up next week. And everyone that lives there is like, no. Like, why are you doing that? Not yet. Yeah.
No. Do you know what? Someone said to me the other day, and it actually stuck. It's a bit like taking antibiotics and then, finishing a week before because you're feeling a bit better. But
you got to finish the whole thing. Yeah.
Exactly. So because it's improving, we shouldn't lift it. We should, see it out, because the last thing we want is it to flare up again and, ourselves being in a worse position. But we're all in it together. Fingers crossed that, the deaths are absolutely horrid. It's one too many that we need. We just need to be social distancing, washing our hands, not touching our face, and all that jazz, and we'll get through it. So are you actually based? So you're in Seattle now. Am I right in saying Seattle is the home of Starbucks?
Yes.
A bit of general knowledge, and the famous fish market, which I think that anyone in business has seen the old training aid of the fish market and them throwing the fish and teamwork and all that. So you're based in Seattle now. So were you born in Atlanta?
No, so I was born in LA. When I was a kid, my dad worked for General Motors, so we moved a few times. So like LA, New York a bit, and then Atlanta when I was like 7, lived there for about 22 years.
Yeah.
Moved out to Seattle. That was around when Predator happened. So then I ended up going to Vancouver for 4 to 6 months. And then I was like kind of up in the air. And then I was back in Atlanta for a year. And now I'm back in Seattle. I bounced. I moved around. So
you've done quite a bit already in your career. When you were a young boy, what did you want to do? Because, if anyone sees you on Facebook or on YouTube, you've got parkour videos and it's immense. Honest to God, it is immense.
Thank you.
Me, I would fall at the first hurdle, to be honest, and I'm scared of heights. So, I couldn't do it. So was parkour one of your first loves when you were growing up then?
So I didn't start parkour till I was 19. Yeah. And so it's funny, like, so younger, when I was a kid, I mean, I like to just play video games and draw a lot of things. I watched a lot of anime when I was a kid, or, whatever was accessible, a lot of cartoons, read comics, but like mostly watched a lot of cartoons. And so that kind of started my love for drawing when I was younger. And then like video games, honestly, started my love for story. And so like those two things, story and art, were very important to me. And then as I got into like middle school, high school, the more like athletic years, rec leagues and playing sports for school, I was, I'm a tall kid, so I was always very like pressured, pushed towards organized sports. But I didn't like them.
Yeah.
I didn't love them. I don't know why. I just like, there was something about, I think it was the way I learned, the way I communicated. There was just something about the environment of like organized sports that didn't work for me. And so I felt constantly this need to like, I felt like I was constantly trying to like break out of this thing that everyone was trying to put me into.
Yeah.
And so that became a very strong narrative of my like young adult life. And so in like various ways too, like whether it's like race or just like hobbies, like, you know, I often would find myself being like, I like these things and I like to do this. And then from like one side or another side, I would feel this like, no, you should do this or you should do this. A lot of shoulds.
Yeah.
One of my therapists would later tell me like, you deal with a lot of shoulds. And I'm like, yeah, that I like that. A lot of shoulds. And so, and when I was younger, especially when I was around 18, 19, when I graduated from high school, I just was very like, I kind of grabbed that mentality by the horns. And because I would feel like if something feels right, if I want to do it, I definitely want to do it. And then the moment someone tells me like, no, don't do that, do this instead, then I want to do the thing I want to do even more.
Yeah, of course.
And then I don't want to do that thing even more that they want me to do. And that led to like a bunch of funny, like radical decisions where like I went to art school and I grew my hair out into like shoulder length dreadlocks. And then I started doing parkour and like a bunch of, I cosplayed a bunch with friends and went to conventions and like a bunch of whatever I wanted to do.
Yeah.
The more like the world at large is like, don't do that. I was like, oh, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. And so, and that kind of became a big part of my personality. And so that's what started parkour, honestly, it was like right around the time where like I didn't have to play or I didn't feel like I had to play basketball anymore, but I was in college, but I wanted to do something active and it just seemed like the right thing. And so I was like, you know what, like this seems cool. But then there was this part of me that was like, I couldn't do that. And then I kind of took that as a challenge and was like, well, I'm going to do it anyway. And then I just kept going.
So for the listeners out there that don't know what parkour is, can you explain exactly what it is?
Yeah, for sure. So parkour is parkour is a physical discipline, and it's relatively recent. Like it started technically in like the 90s by a bunch of dudes in France, and then it's spread all over the world over the last 30 years. But it's a physical discipline where only using the human body you interact and overcome obstacles in your environment. And so there's a lot of running, jumping, climbing, vaulting. And then there's also some flipping and more like aerial, like acrobatic type freestyle movement. There's like various forms of parkour, kind of like how, you know, if someone's like a dancer, you're like, well, what kind of dancer are you? Like, do you do ballet or do you do hip hop? And so parkour has various forms, but because it's so recent, they're not very universally recognized. But you'll have people that do parkour more of like a utility way, as in more of like I like to try to get from here to there, climb, do everything a straight line. You have some people that do parkour more of a challenge.
Parkour, I think to watch it, I think it's awesome. I mean, are there competitions that you can enter with parkour? Is it just a case of yeah? I mean, have you entered? Sorry,
keep going.
Yeah. So have you actually? So your class as a parkour athlete. So do you compete in the competitions or?
I do sometimes. I used to compete more about 3 or 4 years ago, and they're all small competitions all over the place. Like local gyms and local organizations will host parkour competitions. My favorite one is the American Parkour Championship circuit that ends up in Vancouver every year. So I used to enter a lot into the competitions for the time trial ones. Now I'm more of like, I more facilitate and help out. I'm one of the MCs for one of the major parkour competitions.
Oh, that's awesome. And would you say parkour was your sort of gateway into film? Because you appeared in Cell with John Cusack and Samuel L. Jackson, if I'm right in saying.
Yeah.
And obviously you did parkour in that. What was your first role that you did? Because obviously you was in Cell, and we're going to quickly talk about Walking Dead, Captain America, Black Panther, and the Predator. So it's an impressive lineup, to be fair.
Yep. Yeah. Cell was my first day on a set working. And yeah, parkour was like directly responsible because through doing parkour, growing up in Atlanta, I ended up in the same like training circles as a lot of the local stunt actors and performers.
Yeah. And
so then we would just like commingle and hang out. And then basically one of them one time was like, oh, they need special extras for this thing. And I was like, all right, yeah, I'll do that. And that's how we ended up on that. It was me and like a handful of other parkour guys doing some of like the chase scenes on that. That was really fun. I got featured a lot more in that than I ever expected. I have some like really cool clips of me like holding this pipe and running and jumping and stuff. So yeah, that was my first gig, and it was like directly responsible for parkour. So,
and the rest followed. I mean, you was in Walking Dead, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Which is that filmed in Atlanta, or is it?
Yeah. Walking Dead is mostly filmed in Atlanta, and yeah, that one was fun. I got shot in the face.
Yeah. I've seen the clip.
Yeah.
What?
The hardest part of that one was they didn't even show it too. The hardest part of that stunt was like timing it with the bullet, but then I had to fall dead on railroad rocks.
Oh,
like on train tracks they have the rocks. I just dead man onto those rocks. But luckily I was padded up, so I only had a few bruises on my hip.
and what was it like getting all made up like a zombie? I bet you absolutely loved it.
Oh, that was cool. Yeah, that the Walking Dead makeup took longer than the Predator makeup. Yeah, it was like 2.5 hours. This guy named Gino, he's an amazing special effects makeup.
Yeah.
And you sit in the chair and they treat your face like a canvas for about 2 hours, and it's a lot of stuff. Like there's a layer of foam, and then they paint, and they add more foam, and then they add some like prosthetics to it, and by the end of it, you're just like you feel like there's something hanging off of your face.
Yeah.
But then you like look in the mirror and you're like, like.
So how did you get the gig with Walking Dead? Was it an audition or was it a casting call?
Stunts are interesting, and because a lot of it's who you know and what you look like and what you can do. And so for me, I tend to actually work that often because I'm so tall. I'm 6'10", 208 centimeters. And I'm so tall that like, I just can't do a lot of general. And so I just get a call and they're like, oh, you're that tall guy, right? Like, can you send me and then you send them like a video of your resume, and then you just hope that they call you back. And if they do, it's like usually really quick turnaround when they're like, I need you at this place in 2 days. And you're like, all right. And then you show up and you don't even know what you're doing. You don't even know what you're doing until you get there. And not all the time. Sometimes some coordinators will have assistants and will be like, this is what we need you to do. Can you do this? But sometimes you're just like, you just show up and you see where you're going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've gone from Cell to was Walking Dead after Cell then?
No, so it was Cell, and then I did my first stunt job because Cell was technically special background, like special skills background. But my first stunt contract job was for a Tyler Perry TV show, but it actually didn't even happen because
Right.
I was too tall. But I was like on set holding this gun. I was going to get shot or something. And then like Tyler Perry walks in and everyone gets really quiet because he has a very intense demeanor. And then he's like, oh, this guy's too tall. And I was like, all right, well. And then
That's me over. See you, bye.
Yeah. And it's like, I guess I'm done. But that was cool because that still led to more work. And then after that was Civil War. I was months later where I got a call to work on Civil War, which is awesome because they filmed the Lagos, Nigeria scene in the middle of Atlanta. And so basically it was just like every black background performer, every black stunt person, they're like, we need you in this scene. And it was awesome. And so that was a really good week. I really enjoyed that time.
And what an awesome movie. Black Panther has got to be one of my favorite Marvel movies out of all of them, to be fair.
Yeah.
I'm quite shocked that there's rumors going around that the lead actor that plays Black Panther could be, replaced, which I hope he isn't, to be honest. But then again, you don't believe everything in the, Civil War. What an awesome movie as well. I mean, going, from the Black Panther, did you find that it was easier to get work as a stunt person? Would you consider yourself as a stuntman? Or would you consider yourself as an actor? Or is it a case of you can do it all?
It's so strange. Like, out of respect, I don't like considering myself a stunt person just because I don't feel like I've put in the amount of training and dedication towards like there's people I know like, Guido Savia, Aaron Toney, like these guys, like they live, breathe, and bleed stunt performance, and they put in such a high level of training and dedication that like for me to even come close to like considering myself on their level, I'm like, nah, I'm just like a tall guy who does a lot of like athletic things that tall people don't normally do, and then that has led to me getting a lot of work. But then also I dabble a lot in performance. I dabble a lot in like stage performing, singing, improv comedy, and that has also led to a lot of my other work too. So it's like I don't even know what to call myself sometimes. I'm just like I just do a bunch of art stuff, and sometimes I get a thing and I say yes to it and I keep going. But so I have done stunt performance, but yeah, definitely not. I wouldn't put myself on like the same level as some of those other guys.
but what was it like working like on a Marvel movie? Because they're massive. They're shown all the way around the world. They make billions of pounds, or more billions of dollars. What's it like having that on your resume? That must be awesome.
Oh, it's cool. It's an honor for sure. Like, I mean, getting to be in Civil War was cool. Getting to be in Black Panther was like that honestly felt like an honor. Like that felt like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I get to say that I was a part of that film. That means a lot to me. It's surreal for sure. Cause like, you know, some days it's just a thing you did. And then like a story will pop up and you're like, oh yeah, like when I was in Black Panther, that thing happened. And then suddenly the room like stops and everyone's like, you were in that movie? And you're like, yeah, that is a weird thing. And then it's like almost like a sobering moment where you're like, oh, right, yeah, I did that. And then like you get to be excited about it again.
And who was the first person that you told that you had the part in Black Panther?
In Black Panther, the first person I told was, I honestly can't remember.
Everyone.
It's probably my mom.
Oh,
but
bless.
yeah. So that was cool. That was exciting. I tend to not talk about it until I definitely have it.
Yeah.
And even like not even just like them saying, cool, you got it. Like, I mean, like until like I've worked the first day. Cause there's like, whereas 2017 was like a great year for me, like stunt work wise, like 2019, like I had 6 jobs confirm me and then cancel on me before filming. So it's like one of those things where like my superstitious brain is like, I'm not going to say anything until I'm like almost done with the thing.
And then of course you go on and play, I've got to say, one of the most iconic creatures in the film industry. And to be fair, if you didn't do anything else in your career, I think you'd be set for life for conventions. In all fairness, because you play the Predator in the Predator movie from 2018. I was having a chat with Thomas Jane the other week, and he's an absolute ledge. I mean, we didn't get on to talk about the Predator because, you know, he was talking about everything else, and I was trying to get him onto the Predator, but we just ran out of time. And also I've chatted to Ian White as well, that played the Predator in Alien vs Predator. I've got to say though, the film that you portrayed the Predator in was awesome. I've got to say it's fantastic. Yeah. The whole storyline, the action, the way it looks, the way the Predator looks as well is absolutely awesome. What was it like playing the Predator? Because there is a lot of creature, work involved. There's a lot of, how to act as a Predator. What sort of research did you do when you got that role to become the Predator?
Oh man, yeah, that was hard. Playing the Predator was nuts because there's like just so much going into it. Like the first and foremost being like, oh, well, I don't want to screw this up, like, and like, cause you want to like pay homage to like what Ian did, what, the original Predator. You want to pay homage to like everyone that's worn the suit, but then at the same time, you want to make sure that you want to make sure you're doing something different. Like, I don't want to just copy Kevin Peter Hall. Yeah. But I do want to do like the main iconic things that he created, but I want to do something different, but I want to do something so different that everyone's like, what are you doing? Like, so it was like me trying to like harness all of those things. And then at the same time, like, I didn't have a lot of film experience before that, and so I was just like, I felt a lot of imposter syndrome, a lot of like underpreparedness. So I kind of just leaned into it, and I decided to kind of create the character the way that I would normally create character for a comic, because I'm a comic artist. I'm working on a graphic novel right now, and when I do character design, I have this whole process I kind of go through when I create a character. So I did that on paper for my character, and then I just was like, okay, now I'm gonna like do those things like, in real life, and then it led to a lot of body habits. Like a lot of like, okay, I want my chest to always be like this. I want my hips to feel like this. I want my shoulders to do this. I want my arms to be here when I'm feeling this. And like to the point where like I wanted it to feel kind of automatic, because when you're wearing the suit, it's emphasized in certain places. The chest is pushed out, you know, the shoulders are bigger. And so the more you exaggerate things the more I would exaggerate things, the more subtle it would look. In the suits. So I would have to like, it was a strange ratio. And so, yeah, a lot of it, that was most of it, was just like figuring out how to like create my skeleton so that the creature looked believable. And then honestly, like the rest of it was just like surviving in the suit, because the suit was like this giant body glove. And once the head went on, I'm just like trapped in my own heat, and I'm breathing my own oxygen basically. And so then it was this like, and it's about 75 pounds. I'm not sure what that is in kilograms, but it just would like, and like, you know, and if I'm standing, I'm working, you know what I mean? Like, and then the other hard part is, because I'm wearing this mask and everyone sees the Predator and the Predator looks cool. A big part of it was like learning how to advocate for myself. Because, you know, there's a lot of like, especially like coming into stunts, you don't like to complain. You don't want to be like, you don't want to be complaining. You don't want to be wasting time. But at the same time, when you're in the suit, like you have to be like, hey, I need a break now, or I need a break in 20 minutes. And they're always going to try to argue. They're always going to try to be like, oh, well, we really want to get these shots. And you have to be like, yeah, well, there's not going to be any more shots the rest of the day if I pass out again. So like, I tell you, you pass out once and then suddenly you have, like, suddenly people believe you, because you tell them like, hey, I'm struggling here, and you know, I love everyone, but to a degree, they're like, sure you are, and then you pass out, and they're like, oh, okay,
he wasn't joking.
He's pushing it, and then you never have to advocate as hard as you did before you passed out. I'm not advocating people pass out,
no,
but it helps.
I mean, obviously, the suit was quite weighty. I know Ian White was saying that he had to go away and actually work out and actually get some more muscle, because I think Ian White is like 7 foot something. You know, he's a tall guy as well. And he had to really work out to actually manage working in that suit for the amount of hours. What was the most difficult thing about wearing the suit? Because in the movie, you move about a lot. You really, really do. Especially the lab scene, where they've got you on the table. Is that you on the table then?
Yeah, that's me on the table. That scene was a marathon. That was 2 days, and that was because of the nature of that scene. So every other scene where I'm in the fugitive Predator, I'm wearing his like armor shirt thing. But the lab scene, it was Predator shirtless, so that means that the mask was glued to the body. So I was in the mask for 6 hours straight. Just in it, and the mask is about 11 pounds in the back of my head. That's where the motors are that move the mandibles. So it's just this like intense 6 hours.
Did you panic at any point?
And on top of that, like, did I what?
Did you panic at any point? I mean, obviously, it's got to be claustrophobic as hell.
Not in the lab scene. The first camera day, I had a full panic attack breakdown. It was terrible. It was just too much, because it was like, yeah, it was that. I was wearing a stunt harness under it. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't see. Natural anxieties of being on film and being like kind of the center of attention. And like, so the first day it was like, oh, it was awful. I like fell apart. It was so embarrassing. And then like, but then the lab scene, luckily we filmed that towards like the end. And that was like, I could see certain directors being like, is this the same guy? Like, because at that point I had gotten so used to it, and I found a lot of really helpful mental places, to be honest. I think I became like I think I became a Buddhist wearing that suit, because there's just so many hours where I'm just in that thing and I'm wearing these green contact lenses. I can barely breathe. And I'm like, cool, I'm just going to like go somewhere in my head so I don't have to be here right now. But yeah, no, the lab scene was nuts, man. Moving around. So that's the thing, is like, it's all of this work already, just wearing it and standing there.
Yeah.
And then the moving guy. So they're like, can you move over here? Can you do this thing? Can you like fight these dudes? Can you sprint 50 yards for this bus? And I'm just like, yeah, let's see what happens. And so that was like the hardest part, was like just like pushing it and making it look, because you don't want to, like, it's a struggle, but the Predator's not struggling, so I can't look like I'm struggling. So like that was the hardest part, was acting, doing the hardest physical things I've ever done in my life and making them look, trying my best to make them look effortless.
Yeah.
It was so challenging.
And what was your favorite day on set?
My favorite day on set, honestly, was because we did a lot of physical things that I loved. I loved the running. I loved running. There's something about running that people actually get. Like, you do another crazy stunt, but if people can't really relate to it, they're like, that was cool. But there's something about just running where everyone's like, oh, wow, yeah. And so I would get a lot of compliments when I ran, so that was funny. But my favorite day on set, actually, was this. It was the day we shot the opening scene where, like, I'm on the spaceship and it's crashing, and I'm, like, at the control panel. We shot a lot more there than that ended up being in the movie, but which is the story of the movie. But that was actually my favorite scene, because up until then, I was kind of like mostly second unit, doing a lot of stuff like just a lot of stunt oriented stuff. And that was the first day I did more like character creature acting in the suit. It was really funny watching people respond to that, because I'd like show up, I had the head off, and I'm with my team, which like huge props to my team, like Mike Fields, Taryn, Heather, like the people that would help me get in the suit and keep me maintained. Like I couldn't have done anything without them. Jeff. And so it's me with the team. And then we're like, it was a really relaxed day, because you could tell they were just like, whatever, we're just, doing the scene. He's flying the spaceship. And so then I'm like, I do like a walkthrough rehearsal, and then they're like, all right, cool. So like, are you ready? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, all right, cool. We'll do whatever you got to do to start getting in the suit. And so Mike starts like spraying the creature to make it look slimy, and he's putting my head on. But I would do this, like, I would go through my ritual. I'd go through my process of getting into, like, okay, now I'm not Brian, now I'm the fugitive Predator. And I would start breathing different and like acting different and like shifting my body around. And I'm doing this is because I do this every day. And so I'm just doing my thing. And the set goes from this, like, I'm watching like camera guys and other people like kind of chatting and talking, and then they all look at me and then they get quiet and everyone just kind of backs away. And I'm seeing this happening, but I'm not letting it get in my way. And it just shifted the environment of the entire set. And then they were like, okay, are you ready? Are you ready to go? And I was like, yeah. And then we went through that whole scene. But it was really cool, like, watching everyone respond, like, watching them see me change. And then from that day forward, it was actually almost different, the way that, like, they worked with me, where they were like, oh, like, what about this? What about that? It was really neat. It was a cool day for me. So. No,
that's awesome. I mean, me personally, I collect film props that's been screen used. Did you keep anything from any of your shows? Like any of your movies, did you keep anything? Costume, props? No, I don't have anything. I mean, from Predator, I have
is that
you pretending now? Is that I'm not. I haven't taken anything. I swear.
Most of my films are Disney, and they're just like, that's mine, and no one's ever gonna see it again because I own everything because I'm Disney, and that's just how it is. Like, and honestly, I'm kind of a minimalist, so I'm just like, I don't need stuff. But like, do I wish I stole the battle mask? Yes.
Well, it's not stole. You earned it. I know Ian White kept some daggers from the Predator. But no, you need to start, because obviously Chris Hemsworth's got about 1 million hammers. But what is next for you? I mean, obviously with the lockdown and you being here, you're working on your graphic novel. Is there any more film projects lined up, or is it all 100% focused on your graphic novel?
Right now, I'm more or less 100% focused on my graphic novel. I was trying to work on it at the same time as like trying to pursue some other film projects, and I think me at 23 was like, I can do 8 things at once, and now I'm 31 and I'm like, no, I have to do one thing right now. And so I decided to take some time off. That's why I came back to Seattle, focus on my graphic novel. The lockdown happened, which blessing in disguise for me, like getting a lot more work done than I expected to get done. I have a part in the upcoming HBO show Lovecraft Country.
Right. Okay.
I play one of the monsters in that show. I don't want to say too much, but excited about that to see how that airs. But yeah, other than that, that's it right now. I had a big audition last year that I did not get, but I was like, oh man, if I had gotten that, I would have dropped everything else. But right now, just art, kind of recouping, focusing on me a lot of me time, and just working on artwork again. And then I think once I finish this book, like once I send it off to the publisher, I think I'm gonna do my best to jump back into performing and see where exactly I want to go. See, because is it stunts? Like I don't know. I don't know if it's stunts. I break easily now, or I break easier than I used to. If I could do more creature work, honestly, that would be a dream for me. There's something about doing creature work that is it's so fun, because you get to. It feels like going against. I don't know. This character acting is really fun. But there's so much I feel like I'm trying to do when I'm character acting, but when I'm creature acting, I feel like I get to throw all that out the window and come up with something new. And it feels very creative. It feels very, and it's very movement focused. And I'm a very movement focused person. Yeah.
So fingers crossed they make another Predator movie, because the last one was a hit over here in the UK. It was a hit, everywhere. So fingers crossed. So your graphic novel, once it's all done, is going to be available on your website, which is thebaprints.com. Is that correct?
Yes.
Excellent. And then people can jump onto your website and grab themselves a lovely signed picture of yourself as the Predator, which I might do myself, to be fair, because I've got every other the Predators signed, so I might as well add to the collection. So Brian, thank you so much for taking the time within the lockdown to have a quick chat with me. I hope you enjoy Virtual Con and everyone asks you loads of questions and they come over to your website, because your website's amazing. It really, really is. And your artwork is stunning. It really is. I mean, I'm quite surprised. Did you not have time to speak to Thomas Jane? Because I know Thomas Jane has started a company with a friend, Tim Bradstreet, that did the artwork for The Punisher, and they run a studio now called Raw Studios, and they produce graphic novels as well.
Oh, I actually did not know that.
So it might be worth a reach out to him, and look at his stuff, because I know that he's always looking for graphic people to help out with a lot of things. So it might be great to get you guys connected, because you're very talented. Obviously, you're sticking your finger in all the pies. Stuntman, actor, artist, and you're even an ordained minister, which I think is excellent to have on your profile. I read down, I was like, yes.
I was like, why not? So
I would love to be an ordained minister, but over in the UK, I don't know if you can or how you would, because I'd love to be able to put that on my Facebook profile.
Yeah, I've done 3 weddings.
I'd love to marry people. So, Brian, thank you so much. You keep safe, and I'm sure we're going to see other great things in the future from yourself. So, Brian A. Prince, that is such a cool name, by the way. Is that your real name?
It's my real name. Yes.
Is it really? Yes. Yeah. So don't change the Brian ever. It's a good name. All right, Brian, you keep safe, mate. You. All right.
You've You've been listening to Be More Super, the podcast.
It was kind of a crazy, fun experience.
I love the show, guys. You're awesome.
Listen, my whole family loves it, man.
If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit the subscribe button and share with your super friends.
In my world, it means hope.